this is Sabina at Cross Keys Crafts. Today I'm having another little play with some stuff from my stash. In October, and I posted that as a haul, I bought some stamps and dies from Crafters Companion. They had a sale on. All these items were £1 each, but they're only good if I actually use them, and I haven't used these since October. I've used a few of the purchases, but not many at all. So I thought I'm making a card with them today, and I'm just showing you a few techniques how you can play with the stuff that you've got. You don't need to have the same stamps and dies. I'm not even sure yet whether I want to use all the materials I've got here. I've got this butterfly stamp here. I want to use that as a background. I don't want this to be too bold. I'll show you in a moment which colours I've chosen. Then I have got this sort of script stamp, and I've got here some splatters, and I thought that one might be nice to give the card a bit more texture. I'm not very good at mixed media, by the way. I'm still learning, but that's what I'm doing today. I'm having a play. And then I've got these this feather and inkwell stamp and die, and I thought I might use that to decorate my card. I'm not quite sure about the inkwell yet, because I still think it looks more like a stopper than an inkwell. I'll have a think about that, or whether I just use the feather and something else from my stash. To start with, I'm just going to stamp the butterfly stamp, because that will give me the area I will be using for my card later. The stamp itself, let me just measure that, is 4.5 by 6 inches, so I can cut it down to my usual 6x4 card. So I'm just placing it. I've just got a bigger piece of cardstock, because then I can always cut it down later. And the important thing is with new silicone stamps to give them a good rub, and some people do that with an eraser. I sometimes like to stamp it off first. I think I will do that with some scrap paper. But because I'm using this for the background, I don't want to use my usual VersaFine Clair, because they are very solid and very bold. I just want to use some of my water reactive inks, and I've took out, I want to do a blue card, I thought, rather than going, you know, like black as in on the packaging, or I sometimes tend to do the vintage photo style. So I thought I'd go for blue, and I think I'll just start with the Blue Lagoon, and we'll apply ink all over. And as I said before, I will just take this off with some scrap paper to prime this a little bit, and also see if there's any residue on there. So no, that's stamped beautifully. You've got a bit of specks, and that's because of the slide residue, but that's really beautiful. It is actually quite bold already, but I think once I've ink blended over that, it will sort of fade into the background. But one thought I did have is whether I want to mix this with another colour, but I think I might leave that, because the Blue Atoll is quite dark as well. Or, just thinking, I'll tell you what, I think I will do that. I will do a second generation stamping, because then this should be much more subtle. So the only problem I have with this, if I apply this now, I will actually have the shape of that ink pad on there. So let me just get a brush or dauber out. So I will just pick up a little bit of that ink and apply that all over. I have to work quickly, because the Elements ink dries really quickly. It's not like the VersaFine that stays wet for a long time. So again, I'm just taking this off. This might actually be dry now. No, it's still working. And then I'm stamping it. And the good thing about using this stamping platform is, if I find it's too light or didn't work, I can always go back in again. See, I haven't applied enough pressure, or it's already dried here. I quite like that faded look, but I need to apply a bit more pressure there. And as I said, you need to work quickly. Tell you what I haven't used in ages is my homemade pressure tool. That'll be better. Yeah, there is a bit of fading going on, so I will just go in with my brush again and that colour. So just a little bit more there. I can see where it's missed out. That's a weird one. Doesn't seem to touch that at all. Then again, it's just a background one, so I might not even bother about it. Yeah, that's a weird one. It doesn't seem to... I might have to put another piece of paper underneath. Sometimes the stamps have got a different thickness. So, got another piece here. Need to make sure I don't shift this one and just slide this underneath. And I don't really want to have too much ink there and then be too obvious. And again, I'm doing first generation stamping now. I forgot all about it. I think I'll just leave it like it is and work with that, because I might even do some texture paste. I'm now coming in with these texture stamps. So again, I've just rubbed it a little bit, and I'm just using this same ink. I think I didn't mention that this is the Blue Atoll, and before I had the Blue Lagoon. And again, I'm deliberately not using the VersaFine Clear. So I thought I'd just do like a little strip going up and down here, and I'm just disguising this, but I'm rotating the stamp a little bit because I don't want this to look too sort of intentional. My idea by having this strip is I'm defining a certain area, I'm getting some interest to the card. This bugs me a little bit, but I think I'll do something else on there. So, I always leave these things in the video so you can see what you can do. So I think what I will do as well is, whilst I've got my inks out, I'm creating a bit of a frame around there, and I also want to colour the middle in with another colour. So I'm actually starting in the middle with the Della Blue, and I'm just doing some very basic ink blending, just testing it here, and I'm just getting rid basically of the wide areas, and this way the butterflies blend a little bit more into the background. So I thought about using some water splats, but because I've stamped the butterflies in with a water reactive ink, they would just dissolve. You could use it as a feature, but because they're so faded anyway and already are sort of losing shape there, I don't want to do that. You could use a contrasting colour here if you wanted to, but I'm still working on the background, so I want this all to blend in. So I'm just getting a different brush for the really dark denim. I don't have brushes for every colour I have, so I've got one for light blue, medium blue and dark blue, and I'm fine with that. So again, just testing it, and I'm coming in from the corners. And I'm just going around in a circular motion. And the advantage of working on a bigger piece here and cutting it down afterwards, I don't have an edge. If I cut it to size beforehand, this would leave some residue on the side of the card, and I personally don't like the look of that. So, and it doesn't look much at the moment, but once I've cut it down, this actually gives a lovely frame. So I'm quite happy with it so far, except for that area there, but that might be just me being particular. So I think just to have a play, I'll come in with a stencil, and I want to use some texture paste. So I found a stencil here. This is from Lavinia Stamps. I had a look through my stash, and at first I found a few stencils, but they had bigger openings. But I think a stencil with smaller openings is better if you only want to cover a smaller area, because you can still make out the motif. So I want to just use a little bit on the top and maybe a little bit here at the bottom. So as a structure paste, I've got this here. I do believe, although I've labelled it rather badly, that this is actually my homemade texture paste, which is white acrylic paint. I'm sure I've got some glue in there, PVA glue, and I've got some talcum powder in there. I'm sure I vaguely remember that I made this actually for a video. The texture is like mousse, so I'm just going for it and have a little bit of a, what do I call that, make myself a little mental note in the future to label things a bit better. So if you've got some shopboard texture paste, that's fine as well, but I don't use enough to make it worthwhile. So I'm definitely placing mine here at the top where I want to cover that area. So you can even tilt it a little bit, see if you've got a different angle, but make sure you don't go over the edges there and show that edge. So just placing this down and just scraping this through. And because I've got white acrylic paint in here, this should come up as white to start with, but I might consider so I can't think and talk at the same time, might consider dyeing it afterwards, which you can do if it's sort of porous enough. So the reason why I sort of stopped thinking was because I was just wondering whether it is actually leaking, but oh no, that looks lovely. So I'm just placing down an area that I haven't got any paste on yet, and I think I'll just go across here at the bottom. I think that could look quite nice. And with some techniques like this one here, I'm not an expert. I'm just playing, and you will see, even if you just play and haven't got a clue what you're doing, you can get good results. I sometimes find when I sort of read comments on Facebook, people are very strict with themselves when they're crafting and with their results. I'm at the moment, I just enjoy the process, and I hopefully can, you know, entice you to just have a go. It's not always about the results, and if I do mess up, and if there's something I really don't like, I just put it in the bin. There you go. That's lovely. So I will immediately wash this, and I will leave this to dry for, I'd say, about half an hour, which is enough time for me to clean a bit of the pub downstairs, which I need to do for today, and then I'll come back to this. For my decorations, yes, I have decided to use the feather or the quill and the inkwell. And I just wanted to show you, I have die cut them first, and then I'm going to stamp that. As of late, I find that a little bit easier than doing the stamping first and then aligning the die. But if you've got a bit of an edge here that the die creates, it might be a bit difficult to stamp. So have a play with your supplies, which one is better. And I have stuck these down with my Stick It removable, just so they won't slip whilst I'm stamping. And sometimes it's easier actually not to put them on white paper, but put a coloured cardstock around so it's easier to see. But I can now stamp this here with my VersaFine Clair Black Onyx. Another tip you could do is just use that scrap to place the piece in whilst you're stamping it. You can do it in your stamping platform, obviously, but I hope that I've done it properly. And yes, you can see now I have stamped it a little bit to the side, so not a problem. I just do it again, I just cut it again, and I think I will place it on a coloured piece of cardstock so it's easier for me to see where I've got it. Yeah, I thought I'd pop in just to show you this. So this will definitely be more, it will be easier, sorry, to stamp because I can see where I've got my orange round there. And this is just a scrap from a project I had. So this is definitely better. But I won't throw this in the bin. I will use that as a second layer to build up my piece here. There we go. Perfect. So, but if you're not sure about this, use your stamping platform, align it properly there, and then stamp it, or stamp it first and then die cut it. It is admittedly quite a few hours later. I came back to this just to check that the paste had dried quite quickly, and it had. But I was out for lunch in the meantime, had a few other things to do, so I'm back at this with this now, and I have already cut my card base down to, this is a card base I cut to 4 inches. I left this at a full length and scored this at 5 7/8. So I cut my panel to 3 7/8 by 5 3/4, and I think it looks really nice as it is. It cut quite nicely here, the paste as well, on my guillotine. That can be quite tricky sometimes depending on how thick your paste is. And I thought about doing something with the paste. You can colour paste, but this one actually has picked up some colour from underneath because this is obviously water reactive, so I quite like the look of that. It's not too stark white. I have used some new glue with this, and I thought I'd just show you this just in case it pops up in my video and you wonder, because normally I use the magic glue, the red tubes, and I do like them, but they're quite small. I run out quickly. I never have any problems though when I do get to the end of it. It works till the end, but they're just not very big. And I have watched a few crafters use Bearly Arts glue, and I have treated myself to this big bundle. This is not cheap. I'm not enticing you to buy this. I just want to inform you what's out there if you're struggling with your glues. And I think it's an American brand, and this is why it's not so cheap. But what this is a, if I say a bundle, it comes with this bottle here. This is 118 milliliters, and it comes with this refill here as well, and that's 325 milliliters, so that will keep me going for quite a while. And it also comes with various tips. So I've put one on here. This is the right size I need for when I'm gluing card bases down, but there's this really fine one as well, and this one here which is a bit wider. Sorry, the lighting's not that great at the moment here. So yeah, I treated myself to this. I think this was about £30. I got some money off because I'm a subscriber. I'm a VIP with Craft Stash, so you might want to shop around and have a look, or you even live in the USA and get this cheaper. But I thought I'd give this a try and see how that goes. And yeah, I use that to glue down the panel, no problem at all, no oozing, no bubbles, so I'm quite pleased with that at the moment. So for my images here, for my stamped and die cut images, I thought I would use my zig markers here, and I've also got my I've got 2 of my gilding polishes here, just to give it sort of a bit, especially for the topper here, give it a bit of a, you know, special look to it. But I know I wanted this sort of watercolor look, and that's why I'm using these pens, because I've got a bit of a watercolor look to the card here. I didn't want to be too bold. You can, if you don't have the zig markers, you can use other water reactive inks. You can even use those elements, or the, you know, the distress oxides and distress inks, or watercolors themselves if you want to have them, or I think crayons would work nicely as well. They're obviously not water reactive, but they give this sort of subtle look that I wanted. What I'm doing here is I'm just putting some of the ink from these pens onto my tile. This is number 31. Just thinking we'll actually have to zoom in a little bit. I've still got these pieces stuck down here because I think they will be easier to colour. So I've got the number 32 here, and I've got a bit of a grey for the lid, and then I'm just adding some water here on the side, and I've got 2 brushes here. These are from this brand, a Danish brand, I think it is Saustring Green. Not quite sure how to pronounce it. These were just £1.20 for the 2, so I treated myself. I thought can't go wrong, and they're fine enough to go into the details here. So I'm just mixing this with water a little bit, zooming in a little bit more for you, and then I just really just want the look of glass. I might need a bit more ink there. Because I don't want it to solid look, because I think then it will look like a cork. I want it to look like it's glass. And for the bottom where the ink is, I'm coming in with a darker colour. Just blending these in. This is my usual 300 GSM cardstock, I believe, because it was just a scrap. So it can hold a little bit of water, and I've even gone outside the line there. I could go in with some water and try to dissolve that a little bit. So I will need a little bit more where I want to show that it is actually ink. So I'm coming in with a darker colour again. Just a little bit of water to pick it up, and then coming in from the bottom and sort of filling this up. We'll have to have maybe proper level here, so it looks like it's filled rather than having a sort of proper ombre effect. Going in for a little bit of shading as well. Again, I've got this attitude, it doesn't have to be perfect. I think the tip of this brush could do with a little bit of a snip. There's sort of 2 long hairs that are rather getting in the way. Oh, and I'm just checking that, yeah, it's actually a bit wonky, that line. It's a bit of a tricky one because obviously you've got the round shape as well. So, oh, sorry, I'm going a bit off camera there. Just concentrating there. So maybe put a line here, trying to fade that out a little bit. Still wonky, got a wonky eye or a wonky twist. Let me turn it this way around, come in from the other side. Yeah, I think that's better. Sorry for showing that so extensively, but I think sometimes it's worth watching it. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm just using the leftover of that just to fill in the top again. It's quite light. So, and then I'm equally picking up the grey there just to fill this in. Giving a little bit of shading. I'm not too bothered because I'm coming in with some colour there anyway. So I will do this off camera as well with the quill here. So come in with one colour, you're probably the grey, and then do a bit of shading like an ombre look on the feathers there as well with the same technique. So I've coloured these in, and I'm treating the gilding polish the same as if this was watercolour. So I'm picking up some of the ink here and just do this with my brush. I'm putting it on here. So before I put it away, I'm just adding a spritzer of water, And the same with this one here. I'm not quite sure whether this will be a bit too dark. It looks quite purplish as well, so I'm not quite sure whether I will use it. I'll put it on here. I'm even contemplating adding some of my Lunar paste. So, again, little spritz of water. Just store it away. So, and then I can use water again to turn this into a paint. Ensure I don't have any lumps in there, and then I can paint with that. Just zooming in a little bit. This is not opaque, so sorry, this is opaque. This is not transparent, so I need to be a bit mindful not to go over the edges. So I'm trying to stay within those areas. So I'm just going in like this, and taking a bit more water. It's actually not too bad when you add the water. It is quite transparent. So just trying to show you that. Can you see the shimmer in that? So, but I think I will add a little bit of the other bluish purple just for some shading. Sometimes I'm not bothered about shading, but I am here for some reason. So I'm just coming in from the side and just adding a little bit on that side and try to blend that in a little bit. I'm doing the same with the feather. I just want a little bit of that shimmer on there, so I might just rather do it on the feathers. So just going in just in that direction, and you can't see much of it, but there is a lovely shimmer to that, and I don't want to waste that really. So I think what I will do is I will water that down, and I will just add a few spritzes on my card here. Ideally I would then not have stuck it down on my card base, but we just go with it. So I'm just picking it up here, and I'm just using a pen to add this on here. Some of the other stuff as well. Yeah, and I can feel it already going over me. I hope it's not going over the camera, but I quite like the look of that. Camera doesn't pick it up, but it's really nice. So I'm leaving that to dry. I'm going to clean this all up, and then it's not much left to do, but I've got an idea how I will stick my inkwell and quill onto the card. I had a little play off camera with the placement of my quill, my inkwell and my sentiment. For the sentiment, I've chosen the birthday wishes from this set that I also got for £1. I quite like the script look, and I thought it looks like it's been written with the quill. But I was looking whether I can actually place the quill there so that it looks like it's just written it. But there is not enough space to put it up here. I can't go down too much because I can't stamp on the paste here. So I thought it doesn't matter. I could actually have the quill lying there as if it's been written a while ago, and then I would just place this here and maybe even overlap it a little bit. I'll have a look in a moment. So I mainly want to stamp the birthday wishes here, make sure it's straight. And I think originally I thought I'd stamp it in the VersaFine Clair Warm Breeze, but I think I'll actually go bold and do it in black, because I've got black here on the stems, and I think that would sort of tie that in, and it would help it stand out a little bit more as well. So as always, I'm inking it up thoroughly. Yeah, it doesn't want to stamp properly there on the Y, so I'm just inking that up again a little bit. But it could just be, in general, it could be the stamp. I don't want to overdo it and then ruin it. Yeah, I think I'd rather leave that. I could always use my pen there and change that if I'm not happy with it. So, my idea originally, I said I would put a second layer of cardstock underneath these, but I decided actually I will mold these a little bit and make them a bit three-dimensional. So I'm just bending the cardstock a little bit. I can put it around my finger. They're still a bit sticky because I've still got that tape there. And I then thought if I just put some foam tape underneath the middle bit and just stick the sides down, I can sort of retain this shape. And I think I'll do the same here. I will just put a strip of foam down here. I've got these strips of foam, and then I can mold this here, so bend it in a little bit and have a bit of a more three-dimensional piece. And I think this would look really, really nice. So I quickly do this off camera. As I said, I have another little play where I'll place these exactly, and I'm having a look whether I need anything else here, but maybe I just leave it as it is. I thought I'd just show this just in case I haven't made myself clear. So I've got the foam strip here in the middle, and I've got wet glue on either side, but just a little strip because obviously some of this won't even reach the paper underneath. And I'm just placing this here a little bit at an angle, making sure it fits onto the card base so I can press the foam down and then press these sides down. And then I've got this sort of three-dimensional look to this. And I will do the same with the inkwell. I quickly want to show you how you can remedy a stamp that hasn't stamped completely. I've got a very fine ball pen here, and I can just go in with that, and then I'm happy with the way the stamp looks. I think my card is finished. I really like the look of that. I like the look of the shimmer. I am tempted to come in with some gold gilding polish, but I step away from it now and decide about this later. If I do add some gold gilding polish, I would just add it on these elements here, or maybe even here, I don't know. I will create a snippet and put this at the end here, but if not, I shall just leave it here. Sometimes that's my advice anyway, sometimes it's good to just step away, not overthink it, and then come back to it and see what your gut tells you. But yeah, I'm really pleased with this card because I don't do a lot of sort of mixed media style, and I really wanted to use these new supplies, the stamps, the dies, and the background stamp there. Yeah, I'm really happy with this. Yeah, and if you like this card too and you could get some inspiration from my tutorial, you might want to give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of what I'm creating, you might want to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very happy about that. And I'll see you soon with another video.